What's up, everybody? Welcome to System Programmers Live. I'm David Wilson, and we're back again where something is strangely different about what's going on the screen. I think probably because I'm wearing glasses. Look, people, sometimes you gotta, do some things at the last minute, and buying contacts is another thing that I had not done at the last minute. So you're gonna see me with glasses today, unfortunately. Music is needed to get hyped. Yes. I had to work extra hard to get the music working because obviously nothing is working. So, just at the last minute, just try to make sure that the stuff is on, set up correctly so that we can enjoy the stream, or at least what amount of time we have of it left. Because I'm already 30 minutes late, scheduled 30 minutes late, and now we're even later because I had started 20 minutes late because I broke Livecrafter, my streaming software, with the latest updates to Sigil, which I'll talk about in a minute. Anyway, yes, it's been 3 weeks. So I'm sorry for the absence over the last few weeks. There's like, I don't even remember what happened anymore. Like, I think kids were sick 1 week, and we had some other thing another week, and last week I had to go out of town on a short vacation. So it's just been a lot of things happening these days. A wizard is never late. Yes, I'm always on time, just, not the same time that everybody else expects me to be. Didn't show you a pentagram. What are you talking about, Cal? Are we doing demonic rituals just to make the stream work? Yeah, it's weird that Twitch started late. I don't know what's going on. Twitch started late. I saw it, the notification come up later, and apparently it's behind somehow. Biggie says, David and me, we have the same glasses. Well, it's the cheap ones. I don't know which ones they are. I don't know where you bought yours from, but mine were the cheapest ones because I didn't want all the fancy designer crap because I almost never wear glasses except for like when I don't wear contacts. But lately I have been because they've changed the kind of contacts that I normally have. Like, they don't make them anymore, so I have to like find new ones. And just kind of, sometimes I procrastinate on things that aren't really that urgent. And this is one of them. Okay, let me say hello to the people who are here so far. I see Cal, Big Edie, Leonix, Auntie, John, Artie, Knight HK, Ed, Gun, Vim, Jeff, Jerry. Nice to see you. Nice to see you, everyone. Hey, Peter. Nice to see you. Never update software just before a live stream. Look, Peter, the worst part is it's software that is written in my own programming language, and my programming language updates broke it. So I can only have myself to blame. Arnaud says, hat, glasses, what's next? Probably a cane, like a walking cane, or one of those little crutch things that people use. I feel like I'm getting really old. That's part of it. Yeah, Imo says cane. That's right. It's a cane. What else? Dentures. I'll just have all my teeth pulled out and put in dentures instead. I'll tell you a bunch of old stories about the war. And you're going to ask, which war? Well, obviously, the Emacs versus Vim wars of the late 80s, early 90s. Big mustache, please, says John. I don't know if I could do that. See, what little facial hair you see me having here, that's about all I can really do before it just becomes awful. Auntie says, what's next, Sigil editor? No, because I will never get anything done because it's always going to be crashing. Not yet. Be patient. I don't know. Don't think so. Jerry says, glasses are good. They give you a good nerdy look. I don't think I need that, though, do I? I mean, I'm making a freaking YouTube channel about Emacs and geeks. How nerdy could I possibly be? Can I be more nerdy at this point? I don't know. Oh, my God. Okay. But yes, I'm glad to be back. I always have fun streaming. Especially whenever I'm, breaking everything about the stream at the very last minute every time, and then everybody's just like making fun of me in the chat right before the stream, and basically, I'm trying to think of the right word. Not teasing, but goading me, like, yes, you have to start now, start now. Yes, I know I have to start now. I'm very late. What can I do? Anyway, so, yes, Livecraft was a little bit broken, but luckily, through the magic of Sigil, I was able to roll back to an earlier version, and it worked, so. And I did not use Claude at all to do that, okay? I know how to change things in my own language that Claude wrote to fix things, so sorry. Night HK is skeptical. All right, so let me see. Where am I on the screen here? I got to get the show notes going. Where's my mouse? There it is. Is the music too loud? Sounds too loud. Not sure. So, project sites, systemcrafters.net, content, live streams. It's been like since January 20th since I did a stream, right? Not 2023, 2026. There's too many years here. Way too many years. So I don't know what's been going on news-wise. February 27th, 2026.org. I know there's one thing from Sprightly Institute that just happened. A Year Without Vertico is the name of the stream. But if you know of things, let me know. Jeff says, I know how to change things that Claude wrote. Yes, that's what I said. I do. I'm not completely useless as a programmer anymore. But that's basically what I'm doing most of my time is just, you know, telling Claude to do things and then watching it work. Big Edie says they have an Emacs-based Wayland compositor now. That's newsworthy. Yes, today I was trying to actually show that, but I just didn't have time to get it working in Geeks because it's written in Rust. So that always throws a wrench in the works. What is the news here? There's something from Sprightly. I think they just released a new update of Hoot. Yes, Hoot 0.8, and I think it has a REPL that works works against the browser now, which is a very big deal. So Sprightly Institute has released Hoot, Kyle Hoot. Check out the REPL that live updates the browser app. Yes. Rust is always good for blaming. That's right. So look, they're actually adding things using the REPL into the browser, which is cool, right? That's great. Hoot REPL module. There's a Geyser Hoot extension. That's cool. So you can use Geyser, it looks like. Enhanced Hoot web server module. There's a web server module. To support the use of RESPLs running within a web browser tab, the most common development use case, web server doubles as a REPL server, proxying TCP traffic from REPL clients over a WebSocket to the connected browser tab. That's cool. Let's see, Hoot web REPL module, web request, web response for modules that export a sliver of the API defined in modules. So that's great. Oh, wow, check this out. There's a chiptune tracker made in Hoot for the browser, hey? You can't hear this though because it's on a different machine. But there's a site you can go to check it out. If it loads. There it is. Very simple music tracker written in Hoot with minimal dependencies. I would like to see a web page though. There's no page linked. Okay, anyway, check it out. It seems really cool. Glad to see that there's still progress happening on the Hoot side of things. So check out the blog post for that. What else are we seeing in the chat here? So yes, the Emacs-based Wayland compositor, Emacs Wayland. It's called what's it called? EWM. Yeah, that's the one right there. So this thing seems to work. I'm sure it will work just fine, but dun dun dun. I think it was written largely with Claude. So this is a thing that we're gonna be seeing more of now. A lot of Emacs packages being written with Claude code, and obviously people have been waiting for something like this to come along for a while, and now it's happened. We actually have a Wayland compositor that is basically EXWM, but with Wayland. We'll take a look at this as soon as I can get it running on a machine, and then we'll use it on the stream. But something worth taking a look at, because it does seem to work. It's not perfect yet, but I don't know. I mean, I imagine that it won't take very long for it to get a lot better, considering the tools that are involved. So let's see. Check out EWM, a Wayland compositor for Emacs a la EXWM. We will show it on a stream soon. Andy says, is it using Rust because Neri uses it too? What just happened? There we go. Okay. Restream chat disconnected for a moment, but it's all good. It's back. It's probably using Rust because Neri uses it, but it's probably also using Rust because most people who are writing native stuff are going to use Rust these days, I guess. Except for me, because I like C better. Because I like a bit of danger, as you can tell. Because it always gives me an excuse to complain whenever things go wrong. Crab people, look, let's not be, throwing slurs around here. Let's not be talking about the crab people. Anyway. So yeah, that's that. Also Sigil, another Claude Code jam. For those of you who don't know, I've been working on a scheme implementation called Sigil since probably November. And it's been written like 99.99999% with Claude Code. And it's gotten quite sophisticated by this point because I just can't stop messing with it. I've released a couple of new releases. I've put out a couple of new releases recently. 0.5 and 0.6 came out maybe like the last week or so, like week or two, because I was on vacation part of the time, and also I just kind of got back into it again. A lot of stability improvements overall. I didn't even remember what else has been going on because it's so much. I've been doing so much with it. I added a peg parser. I also added an org package that it could parse org mode files now. I haven't really tested it too much yet, but I'm going to use it for generating the website without org publish, which I know is going to be a little bit controversial. Also, the web framework is massively improved. Even supports. Is it in this release? It even supports live updating via the REPL. So you can change the website as it's running. And even though it's a server-driven page, you can change the website as it's running and see the updates more or less in real time. Dolce says, I've been vibe coding a pet Lisp. JIT compilation is not fun. Yeah, I'm not trying to get into JIT compilation just yet. There's a lot of stuff that can be done without JIT compilation if you have a bytecode compiler and you do enough optimizations with that. So that works well enough. I've got 0.7 on the way. I've got a lot of other things I've added to it. One interesting thing that is not visible right now, I don't know if I pushed it yet. No, I haven't pushed it yet. I've got basically specs. So almost like typing in the language now, but it's not, it's like optional typing, let's say. It's optional typing for the language. So it's function signatures now can have types attached, which are really just type predicates for the parameters. And it's used in dev mode and in running tests to do real-time type checking at runtime, type checking. But then it gets taken out for release builds. So I don't know, it's kind of interesting. I think it's progressing in an interesting way. It's still Scheme. I've done a lot of work to get it compatible with R7RS small, so that in theory, if you have a program that's written in pure R7RS small, it should work in Sigil. It doesn't really matter that much, I guess. I mean, like, who's really going to use this anyway except for me? But it's a fun project. It's just a thing to do. So if you're interested in my weird, wonderful Scheme implementation, I'm going to try to make something with it, with or without AI. Give it a shot. it actually works pretty well with AI because it has its own MCP server that does quite a good job in giving information to the agent to make it easier for it to write code in the language. Because, I mean, it's Scheme, but it's also not. So the agent doesn't really know how to write Sigil unless you tell it somehow, and the MCP server is a way to do that. Check out the latest Sigil releases. Hello, Anders. I'm an hour late almost, so you're not really late. You're actually probably relatively on time compared to me. Okay, so let's just stop beating around the bush. So about a year ago, I don't know how long it's been. Let's actually see. Live streams. How long ago was it that I started? Let's see, making the most of terminal Emacs. It may have been longer than a year ago, actually. Emacs completion styles. Minimal. Maybe it was around this period of time. I don't remember. But I basically rewrote my Emacs configuration to be terminal driven and mostly use features that are in the box. So I ripped out all the community packages that I was using and just tried to use as much of the stuff in the box as I could without having to pull anything in from other places like Melpa or Elpa or whatever, as much as possible. And it's been going fine. I mean, I kind of just stuck with it, and I really haven't been using anything, not too much outside of the core Emacs stuff for a while. There's some things that you kind of have to use that are outside of the core Emacs, but I don't even remember what they are at the moment. And I started using Magic again recently, a little bit here and there, because it's better in a lot of ways than VC mode. But for the most part, I've stuck with the in-the-box stuff. But over time, I just kept going back to the idea that maybe I should try Vertico again. If you don't remember what Vertico is, it's basically an improved completion framework for Emacs that just has a better, smoother user experience, let's say, for displaying completions, which are the things that show up in the mini buffer whenever you are like running commands, trying to use MetaX to run commands, or like open files on your hard drive or whatever. Night HK says, LMs everywhere. David vibe coded the docs too. Of course I did. You think I'm gonna write the docs? It's gonna write those too. And no node modules. Yes, it's because it's not node. It's not inaccurate, is it? So anyway, replacing Ivy Council with Vertico and Consult. That was the very, very, very beginning of using the Vertico stack. So we're going kind of full circle here, basically trying a Vertico again just to see basically if it is worth using compared to what I've spent the last year or more using, which is the in-the-box completion system. And then list on no, and then listing random, insist on no and listing random stuff forever. You're talking about LLMs? So, yes, what I want to do is try running Vertico again. I'm going to start from a basic setup and just kind of compare it to what I've got so far with completion systems in Emacs, and just kind of feel for myself whether it's worth actually having it back in my configuration again. I kind of would like to have it back there because it is a nicer experience, but I don't know. We'll see whether it is worthwhile or not when we get back into it. Andre says, LLMs are amplifiers. So if you don't know what you're doing, it amplifies that too. But if you know what you're doing, it amplifies that. Yes, for sure. LLMs are a blessing and a curse. If you have been working in a job where people are using LLMs to write most of their code and you have to review that code, you probably understand now that it is not a good situation. You end up using AI tools to review the code that AI wrote, and then nobody really is looking at what's going on in the code. Not where I work necessarily, because we are looking at the code, but still, I kind of feel like that is a thing that will be happening. All right, so let's get back into it. Let's try Vertico again. I stopped using Vertico at all over a year ago. So let's give it another try to see if it's worth adding back to my configuration. All right, so is SC Livebot still Ashraz? No, Ashraz is off at a company party, having some drinks, having a good time. Now we have the actual Livebot with the chat bridge working correctly, thanks to Claude Code, of course. And I see that it is working in the IRC, which is good. Nicolas says, can you show what your completion looks like currently too for comparison? Yes, absolutely. We need to do that. So, just as a baseline, if I use meta X, there's no pop-up at the bottom, all right? In fact, let me use default text scale increase. You see it right now, right? So I'm using default tab text scale increase. Yeah, so I'm gonna just bump up the text size a little bit, but there's no pop-up at the bottom, okay? Not like you would see in Vertico or with like the Fido vertical mode, iComplete vertical mode, etc. I just got rid of all that stuff and I'm using more or less normal iComplete, I think. So, and not even iComplete, I'm using like the normal completion system because if I hit tab a couple times, it goes into the completions buffer. So I kind of went all the way back to like the really, really plain stuff. So that's where I am right now. And it's been working fine. Like I got really used to it. It's not perfect, but it's okay. I mean, it kind of reminds you of Vertico a little bit. You still get the key binding hints and whatnot. You don't get like the nice annotations that you would see with Marginalia, where you see like the descriptions of all the commands and everything like that. If I use Control X, Control F, and hit Tab, it will do a pop-up with all the completions. This is just normal, basic, built-in Emacs completions, not really anything that's special. But it's perfectly acceptable. I don't know, like I haven't had a lot of trouble with it, but it doesn't feel so smooth. It doesn't feel as smooth as I remember Vertico being in the past. So this is why we're gonna look back into it again. So, does that show enough, Nikolaus? Like basically what we've been doing so far? Let me turn the volume down a little bit more. All right, so Vertico. What we're gonna do is start from just the basics, okay? I'm not gonna try to pull up my old Vertico configuration again. I'm gonna start from just the bare minimum and try to get Vertico wired up again and see how it goes. Now, some of the stuff that's in my configuration already for completions might affect the default experience of Vertico. I suppose we could go from a stock Emacs config and try that. Maybe that's a better idea, so that you don't really see like what mine is influencing in that way. So let me see if I can do a Emacs-Q. And now we got a new Emacs window up. I'll see, where do I want to put this? Not there. I'm just gonna go in the home folder, init.el. Oh, look, there's another configuration here. I wonder what I was doing. Well, still, let's just get rid of all this other stuff, okay? I'll start with this, eval buffer. There we go. That looks pretty good, right? Flashbang. Yes, I know. So we've got a little basic configuration here just to make things good to start off with. And if I were to use meta X, it's the basic completion system similar to what I already have, okay? So now we can start from there to use Vertico. And let me just find the basic configuration. In fact, right here is probably just enough. I'm just gonna grab this part and drop it right in. We'll leave these other parts as well. And then, let's see, failed to parse package, use package, custom wants a non-empty list. Ah, okay, we just need to do this then. Function definition is void Vertico. Okay, so, let's see, package, refresh Contents. Let me just refresh the contents real fast. And then we will ensure T this and pull it from ELPA, okay? I'll probably regret this because it's going to drop the stuff right into my own config, but that's fine. So meta X, now we got Vertico pulled up, okay? So this is the base Vertico experience without any configuration whatsoever, okay? Already, it seems a bit better to use because you've got a pop-up that has all the completions kind of baked in. You don't have to hit tab multiple times to make the completion buffer show up. But what I will say is that I did get quite used to the fact that when I use meta X or Control X, Control F, it doesn't shift all my window configuration up. Like it doesn't make that window pop up so that it moves everything around on the screen. It's good and bad because if you have like a more constrained Windows size, like if you're using Emacs in a terminal, then it just eats up all the space of your screen whenever you pop open the mini buffer. So there is benefits, I think, to not having this stuff pop up like this as soon as you run a command that requires completions, but I don't know. The experience is better in a lot of ways that it kind of makes it work out. SWI, all right, so I don't know what completion styles it's using. Completion styles. We are using basic partial completion in Emacs 22. So this is the default completion styles list. Gun says custom declared options are ephemeral, correct? No, if I save the configuration, they'll stick around. I just haven't enabled any of them yet. Okay, so so far, all we're really getting is just a better, what is Studlify? What the hell is that? Studly.el, where's this coming from? Studly caps, part of GNU Emacs. I've never seen this before. That's funny. Anyway, anybody seen that before? You know what that is? Hunter says, the old times running Emacs internal 80 by 24. Geez, I can't imagine that. Bart says, Fido Vertical for the win. It was pretty good. Okay, so the other benefit being that, you can scroll through these pretty easily, but I think that you need a better completion configuration for this to actually help, right? If you type in ARC for like archive, it automatically filters things down. You don't get that with the built-in completion system. You have to keep tabbing constantly. And I think that's one of the things that makes it a bit fatiguing, is that to find what you're looking for, often it can take more slamming the tab key to try to get it to give you what you want. And even then, sometimes it doesn't get you there. So the first step is having something like Vertico where it automatically starts filtering down as soon as you type. And it's quite fast. It's the fastest interface for automatically filtering the list of candidates that I've seen. I'm guessing it just pre-calculates them or something, but you just type in, it just pops up. Dolce says, I would go insane without Orderless. Yeah, we'll get to Orderless also, but I think that I want to see what the other completion styles are like, especially the ones that I already use, and see if those make a difference. So, in fact, we'll go ahead and start with that. I'll load up my own Emacs config, and then completion styles. Let's just see what's in here. I use basic substring partial completion in Emacs 22. So, and where is that one? Basic partial completion substring initials. I have two different places where this is getting set, and I'm not exactly certain why. Oh, that's for overriding Fido. So I think this is the one that I actually use. So let me pull this in and see what that ends up looking like. Was I using set opt? Yeah. So set opt, completion styles. Okay. Night HK says, is there still a planned end for this stream? Yes, the normal time that I would end it, because I have kids and I have to go help them get to bed. Auntie said, did Claude add it? What do you mean? Like now? Or previously? No, I wrote this. Okay, so I've changed the completion styles. Let me open this up and then type add add. Okay, so it still does the prefix filtering. I wonder. Oh, right. The way that the completions work is that it goes through each of them to find the one that gets you the result, gets results back. And I don't know if that actually works for Vertico the same way. In fact, let's go look for completion styles here. I don't even know why basic would return anything if orderless hadn't already. So substring initial, so KC, K-C. That kind of works. Knight HK. I've been pronouncing it correctly for a while, buddy. Have I not been? It's not Knight. Is it? Maybe I'll just start saying that. So anyway, already we see that I think that it really only uses basic completions unless you really type something in that forces it to use another completion style, which I guess it makes sense because that's what the normal completion system does as well. Add-F. It doesn't get us to add fortune. -add-F. That does get us to add fortune. Oh, so it's ninth. Okay. Basic considers a position of point. That's right, Morgan. It also, I think it is almost like a substring match at first as well. At least starting from the beginning of the string. Okay. So anyway, that's more or less acceptable, but I guess if you're in Vertico, you probably expect that it's going to fuzzy match somehow. So if you type in, like, I see tear off window here. You expect you type in off, it's going to give you tear off window. Well, I guess it did in this case. What the hell? Maybe this is a bad example because I'll bet money that basic returned nothing and it eventually went down to either partial completion or substring. So let me just explain what I meant. I see what you mean, ninth. So, completion styles, if you don't know, in Emacs, you can have a list of completion styles that are being used in completions like this, like meta X, where you have a list of things that are being shown to you that you can select from. The way that it works is that it goes down the list. When you type a string in here, it's going to try each one of these completion styles, and if it returns any results with that completion style, that's all you're going to see is just the results from that completion style. If it doesn't return any results from the first completion style, it's going to return the results of the next completion style and on down the list until one of them doesn't work. So if you type in ARC and it finds results with the basic completion style, which it is in this case, I'm quite sure, it's only going to show you results that match that completion style. So if there's another ARC somewhere else in the list, it's not going to show you results from the other completion style that would have shown it unless you do something like -ARC and then it ends up looking at some other completion style to give you that stuff back, okay? Which honestly is okay. If you get used to that, you can cope with it pretty well. In fact, I think even if I say like .*ARC, does that work? Or .ARC? No. Anyway, there's a way to do wildcards, I think, with this ARC space ARC. No, anyway. So, if you know that's how it works and you know to expect it, then you can be okay with it in most cases, especially with the way that, you know, Emacs commands have dashes in the names. I think it works pretty fine on files as well. So if I were to go to projects, sites, system crafters, content, live streams, January, or actually let's say 26, 25, 26, I mean, you'll get back effectively what you expect to see with files. Oh, .ARC, .ARC. There you go. Thank you, Morgan. That's right. So anyway, you don't really need something like Orderless. You don't need it if you know how the Emacs completion systems work. However, it would be nice to look at what Orderless looks like again to see if it actually is better or if it seems more intuitive than the Emacs completion styles. So we're going to install Orderless just to see. And I will put that in here. Andre says, are the documentation on completion styles? Yeah, if you look at the docs for that variable, Control-HV, it tells you what they are. And if you look at the completion styles A list, I think it just explains them in general. Yes, so Emacs 21, when completing foo bar, it will consider all completions candidates matching the blah, blah, blah. Basically, all of these things in this list are the possible completion styles that are built in. This list of completion styles that are built in and the description of what they do, the examples are pretty good to tell you. Hey, Benoit. Benoit says, that reminds me of the streams of early 2020. Boy, we've been doing this for a long time, right? Yeah, 2021. So, let's take a look at Orderless then to see how it fares differently. Category order overrides PCM leading wildcard. Will says, sending this message from Geeks, almost daily driving it. Nice, that's great. Great to hear that. I'm glad you're liking it. All right, so I'll drop Orderless in here. And I'm not going to do anything fancy. I'm just going to set it up like this. I'll also comment this out as well. In fact, do I need to ensure T on that? Okay, so I've got Orderless set up now. If I go into the buffer and type ARC, now we get fuzzy matching like you might expect to see. The full substring is fuzzy matched against all the possible options. And it does make it a bit easier to find what you're looking for. And I think that if you were to use caret ARC, then it will still do matching against the beginning of the string. So Gun says David has started reruns of his old streams. No, I'm kind of looping back into the past now because I stopped using all these community packages and I'm just kind of evaluating them again just to see if they're worth putting back in. So it could be nice to have something like this because it's easier to find commands you're looking for. I guess that's the discovery part is what makes Orderless useful. Because if you're looking for something like, let's say, something related to Python, you just type in PITH, and then you see all the options that are for Python. However, if you do the same thing with partial completion, let's type PYT. So now it's not giving us run Python anymore. But if we did like Morgan said and do star PYT, then we do get run Python. In fact, we see some other things that we weren't seeing with Orderless, I believe. So I don't know, like in the end, I think that Orderless is basically just making things a little bit easier for you to find stuff that you might be looking for without having to understand the completion styles that are built into Emacs. So I don't think that Orderless is really needed. Unless someone has a very specific use case where Orderless is better than someone who understands how to use the Emacs completion styles already. So I don't know that I would put Orderless back in since I know how completion styles in Emacs work. But I don't know. I mean, like it is sometimes more convenient just to be able to type something in and get all the results that are related to that. So I don't know. I could go either way, but right now I wouldn't probably put it back in. Vertico so far makes sense. Big Evie says, does Orderless preserve history? I feel like something in Ivy used to do that. No, it's not Orderless that does that. That's actually save hist mode. So let me see. What can we run here? Emacs version. Okay. So in MetaX, I just ran Emacs version. It's not showing up in the list here. It's not sorting based on that. But if I run save hist mode, do the same thing again, Emacs version, then hit MetaX again. It doesn't do it. There's something that makes it show up like that. So it's not something that is Orderless doing it. It's something that the completion system itself is doing. Yeah, save hist mode. Persist history over Emacs restarts. Vertico sorts by history position. But for whatever reason, it's not working in my case. Peter says, Orderless searches for multiple search terms in any order. Okay, maybe that's also a difference. So let's look at that. I'm not using Orderless right now, I don't think. Completion styles. Oh, I am. Whoa. Nope, I'm not. Okay, there it is. I've proved it to myself. So if I go into the mini buffer and type in ARC space FO, are we sure that I'm not using? Because one of these is doing it. Nicolas says, do you still use Embark? No, I haven't actually used it in a long time. Interesting. I wonder which completion style is doing that. Because it's not orderless. We don't have orderless turned on at the moment. So if I were to take all these, let's take this out. And let's take this out. I just want to see which one it is that's making that happen. So ARC, what was it that we just found? Corfu insert separator. Well, I'm not using Corfu. Okay, so it's one of those. Is it partial completion? No. Is it substring? Hi, Braxton. Braxton. I abandoned the Vertico like over a year ago. That's why we're talking about it now in the stream. ARCDIS. Okay, what the hell's going on? Did I have Orderless on at that moment? Is that what happened? Let's try Orderless. Okay, Orderless must have been on even though it did not seem to be on. So yes, that, okay, Orderless, let's say it's in the name. It will find things even if you type it out of order. That's one thing that makes it unique compared to the others. Obviously, it's finding things like substrings that I'm typing, but it's finding them out of order. I'm typing disarc, and it's finding arc dis into options here. So for discovery, it would be quite useful. And I think there's ways to turn on completion styles in specific cases and not have them on all the time, or at least cycle through the completion styles. So it can be useful in that case whenever you really need to do like discover something that you don't know exists. Max says there's a completion styles A list that makes it more complicated. Completion varies depending on context. Yes, that's the whole point, is that it can depend on context, like which type of completion you're currently in, whether it's a file completion or command completion or whatever, but it also can depend on what you've typed in so far. Braxton says, why? Because I tried to take out as many community packages as possible to see if I could survive without them. And it turns out you can survive just fine without them. And I have been for quite a while now. So, cool. So Vertigo has value. I don't know that I would personally need it at this point, but I could keep it in if I wanted to. Let's see. Context menu mode, recursive mini buffers. You probably would want that. Read extended command predicate. High commands and meta X, which do not work in the current mode. Yeah, I don't really like that so much. I kind of want to see all the commands. Max says you can use one completion style for file names and a different one on other stuff. Yes. Cal 2001 is just turning everything into references to the song All Star by Smash Mouth. Thank you, Cal, for bringing the culture into the chat. Gunn says, David even tried Ed, however, and that was way too far. Yes, Ed is very interesting. Not quite for me. Night HK says, what this no packages thing? Why use Emacs at all then? Why not Nano or Pico? Even Vim is bloated. It's not about bloat. It's about using what is part of Emacs, because Emacs is powerful enough in the box. Big Edie says, do you mess with any of the console stuff? I used to. I used to use console line all the time, which is great. We might actually look at console just because console line itself is so good. I do miss, yes, mess. I miss consult line. And why not just take a look at that now, huh? Minad consult. Because this actually does have value, I think. I got used to just using normal iSearch to the point where like I'm not really bothered by it that much anymore. It's fine. It's fine. You probably remember Every time I talk about using the inbox Emacs stuff, the one thing I always say is it's fine. It's fine. And it is fine, but you know, things can be better. They can always be better. Where is the stuff I can copy paste? Okay, I'm a programmer. I need to copy paste. Where is it? Use package. Thank you. Use package consult. Good God, I'm not copying all that. All right, anyway, let me write it myself. Use package, consult, ensure T, bind. Remind me of the bind syntax. Control S. Consult line. Is this correct? I believe so, right? All right, I pulled in console, Control S. There it is. All right, so then if I want to type in LIN, then I get all the lines that have that text, right? And I believe this also, does it use the same completion styles as what you have set up? Let me actually try that again. Control S, LIN. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Just ask Claude. We're not doing that right now because it's Geeks and I can't run Claude right now on Geeks. Sidebar. How many of you are using Claude Code on Geeks and they decided to change it from being a program that's installed via NPM to a native program that you have to install? And if you're a Geeks user now, you have to go either run it in a Geeks container or you have to do some patch elf to fix things to make it run. Yeah, that's real fun. But I worked around it. You kind of have to. It's also auto-updating, so you can't really make it into a Geeks package. Otherwise, you won't get the latest updates because they ship updates like every 20 minutes. That's just the perils of the world we live in right now. But whatever. We'll get back to the real point, which is that consult line is actually pretty useful if you are... pretty useful if you want to search for things in the current buffer. I do miss this one because it's quite useful. Because I'll tell you why. It's not just because it's a nicer looking interface for searching in the buffer. If you're looking for something that shows up in a lot of different places, it actually can be really useful for getting a summary of that thing in the buffer. So, for instance, STY. I can see all the places where I'm setting completion styles because I just typed in STY and it just gathers them all together. If you don't have consult line on and you're using like normal iSearch, you have to kind of cycle through all the results and look at them individually. So you don't get that compressed view where you have all of the results kind of together in one line. I kind of feel like that's the thing that consult line does well. It finds all the results, puts them together right next to each other in a buffer where you can kind of see them and you can compare information or more quickly find the thing that you were looking for, okay? Nicolas says there is no Claude, only David will. Well, in this stream, maybe. Outside of the stream, it's mostly Claude. I don't exist really anymore. Peter says, I have a script to patch elf the interpreter. I added it inline so it patches if it's not yet patched. Nice. You should share that with me because that sounds pretty useful since it does like to update itself. Sounds like it's probably pretty straightforward though. There's nothing that complicated because it's just, you know, mostly self-contained. The binary for Claude Code itself is enormous on Linux. Isn't it like 200 megabytes or more? A little bit ridiculous. Consult line multi. I haven't really used that one. What's that do? Oh, in multiple buffers? That's pretty cool. Yeah. That is pretty cool. Okay, so Vertico plus consult, I think, are quite useful, for sure. The other one that is kind of useful is a little bit more eye candy. It's Marginalia, but I think sometimes the benefits of this are more than just eye candy because you do get to see the descriptions of commands and other things that you are looking for. So it does provide some value. Like if I hit meta X right now, I'm not really getting any information about these commands, but if I were to put in Marginalia, and I know a lot of you who are watching this already know this stuff. Sorry that you already know this stuff, but I'm just showing it in case other people don't know it. Can't load Marginalia because I haven't used Ensure T. All right, installed it now. And now if I go into MetaX, we get all the description of all the commands. I feel like this should be there by default in Emacs. But I guess the problem is that there's no vertical completions like this by default in Emacs to give you the opportunity to see this information. But it is quite useful to be able to see these things in the buffer like this. Also, it does a similar thing for files. If you use Control-X, Control-F, you get like information about the individual files, which is great. How do you get that quill written ink Marginalia? I don't know how you would do that. You'd probably have to go back to the 1800s. Does it work in Fido vertical mode, IMO? That's pretty cool if it does. Big Edie says, I like iSearch quite a lot too. The one I missed most is probably consult rip grep. I got used to using normal grep in Emacs, but honestly, I haven't been doing it that much. Probably because Claude does it all for me now. So there hasn't really been something that I missed a ton, but I did use it a ton in the past, especially whenever you try to do edits across multiple files. Hello, Matt. Console info and FD and FlyMake and iMenu and KMacro. Okay. So what was I looking for? Yes, consult ripgrep. Consult ripgrep. I'm not in a good folder for that. Let's go to projects, code, system crafters. No. Sites. Here we go. All right, in this folder, consult ripgrep, Vertico. There we go. All the Vertico related stuff. We're just gonna pop right through those. So console ripgrep is pretty good. It's very fast to get to all that. I do somewhat miss that, but also I haven't really been grepping so much. So it hasn't been as much of a need for me lately. But yes, console in general, I think is a great package. I don't really know, like, fast fetch. I don't know. What is fast fetch? Is this an ad of some sort? Big Edie says, I wish there was a way to get Vim style X commands without all of evil. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really miss Vim stuff or evil really at all. It's been so long ago that I used any of that. Jeff says Viper mode. Does Viper mode work for that? Viper mode just feels so clunky though. Viper mode feels real clunky. Yes. Braxton says, did Ashraz get fired? No, Ashraz got a permanent vacation. I know that sounds like I killed him or something, but no, I didn't. I fixed the chat bot, so now like the chat actually gets replicated across everything, which is great. No, Ashraz, I'm very thankful for all the help Ashraz has given me over the years copying chat messages, but thankfully he doesn't have to do that anymore. And now he's having a nice time this evening doing something else instead of copying chat messages between YouTube and Twitch and IRC. Braxton says you should check out Meow. Braxton, you should check out the stream I did on Meow like 3 years ago. It's pretty cool. I don't know. It's fine. I'm not a huge fan of it, let's say. Permanent vacation, I see. Yes, permanent of a sort. Not that kind of permanent. Knight says, why even care about modes at this point? You just chat with Claude anyway. Yes, the truth is, I'm not using Emacs a ton for editing stuff. So, is it all moot? Might as well use notepad.exe at this point. I don't read anything anymore either. I just let Claude read it for me and just tell me. Hello, C Films. What's going on in the chat right now? There's a lot of people I haven't seen before. What's the numbers? Sometimes there's like a little bump towards the end, which makes no sense. Like the algorithm just decides all of a sudden to push the stream in front of people's faces. Okay, 54 people watching. That makes sense. Oh no, he's become a vibe coder. We're all gonna be vibe coders, okay? you should kind of learn to accept the reality that it's gonna be happening. So, our profession, yes, well, I got a lot to say about that. How do you know if Claude is lying to you? Which window manager are you on these days? I'm still using Sway because Sway just works. Sway gets out of the way. That's the new tagline for Sway, the one that I just came up with on the fly right now. Sway gets out of the way because you don't see anything on the screen right now, do you? Aside from just the window that I'm in, because who the hell needs more than that? I don't need all the crappy, flashy crap on the screen. Crappy, flashy crap. That's another slogan or term, idiom, I guess. Idiom for idiots. Anyway, so consult is pretty useful. There's commands in consult that are useful. Quite a few, actually. I definitely would put consult back in. So if I were to put anything back into my configuration at this point, it would be Vertico with a base configuration. Thanks, Leonix. Vertico with the base configuration and consult, because both of those actually do provide a fair amount of value. I don't need either of them because I've gotten used to using things in the box in Emacs without them. And like I said, I'm not really like in Emacs quite as much. Crappy or crabby, both. Not crabby in the Rust sense, but crabby in the, I'm an old guy and I'm just a little bit, crabby when I haven't had my third cup of coffee in the day or lunch. What else are we missing? Marginalia. Yeah, that's a good one too. Embark is pretty cool. It's very powerful, but as I've said before, I have a lot of trouble like figuring out the best way to make it a central part of my workflow. I never really had Embark being a central part of my workflow. There were a few things I would do with Embark, like doing something that's kind of like Witch Key with Embark, where it would give you the bindings of a key map in a easy to use way, but I don't really use that either because I just go into Control HM and you can search inside this buffer like kill. That's a terrible thing to search for. Eval. What the hell? Okay, so there's a lot of random lines that have eval in them. Oh, okay. I forgot that I'm not in iSearch anymore. Is eval not in this buffer? It's right there. Why does it not show up with the console line? Eval. That's silly. Is it because I don't have Orderless on? Completion styles. Yeah, I don't have Orderless on. Maybe that's why. So, Orderless could be helpful with console line. Let's go back to that. Control HM. Eval. There we go. Okay, so Orderless would be helpful with console line for sure because completion styles are being used with console line to filter through the results. So if you're using console line, you probably do want to have Orderless turned on too. That way, you get proper, not really fuzzy matching, but like substring matching that is smart in the buffer. So you kind of end up having all of these packages together in the end. Vertico, Orderless, Marginalia, Consult. It's Vimco, right? Oh, and Embark is the E, which I don't really think you need. NightHK says, I think Embark suffers from having way too many options. I agree. I think that there's a lot of stuff that it does. Embark is kind of like a context menu for completions, which is cool, but at the same time, I used like 0.001% of what it does. NightHK says, oh, you mean like options. It should have like 6 sensible defaults instead of 40. Same thing with Corfu and Orderless. Anyway, so of the Vimco stack, if you haven't heard that before, Emacs, Vimco. I don't know who came up with that. Does anybody else call it that? I saw that somewhere. Was it on like Reddit that I saw that? Anyway, Vimco, Vertico, Embark, Marginalia, Consult, Orderless. Basically, you put all those together. Should have used M dash. I should just like speak with M dashes. That way you know that it was all written by AI. So, back to the point. Would I put Vertico back in my configuration? Like if we were to go back to my actual config and not inside of this, why are there 2 frames open? Whoops. If you were to go back to my own configuration and see what I'm doing in here, like I got Control S iSearch. I have to use Control S like a normal human being searching through the buffer. Seems kind of boring. I don't know. Like it'd be nice if I didn't have to do that, but I've survived this long without it. I don't really need it necessarily. Control X does not give me the nice pop up at the bottom with all the possible options. If I were to type in ARC, eventually I will find what I'm looking for. DIS, no, ARC space. Yeah, I can't even do space in here because this is normal completion system. So can I do caret? Caret, where is caret? ARC tab. Anyway, Vertico does provide some value for being a better completion interface. Orderless also provides some value for making it easier to find things when you have a completions buffer open. But I think that the real key is if you're using something like consult line, because you're searching over the entire buffer using completion styles, and you need a completion style that makes it easier to find things like that. It's possible that you could set a specific completion style for a consult line buffer. I'm not 100% sure that's possible. If you can tie it to a mode, that could help. You could use partial completion there instead of basic. That might help a lot. 9HK says, like you said about Vertico and Orderless, applies to Corfu Cape as well. Yeah, I don't really need Corfu at all. Cape is different, but I don't really need Corfu at all. Can Consult work without Vertico? I believe so. Let's find out. Consult, whoops. Consult line. Go to line. Map. Okay, look at that. So it's actually not that bad. I'm using normal standard Emacs completions here, and I use consult line to search for map in this buffer. You press enter, and it gives you a buffer containing all the results. It's a normal completions buffer. You can click through any of these and jump to the line. You can't. Oh yeah, you can nav through them using Control and Control P. So in fact, well, okay, with my configuration, you could do that. I don't really know if a standard Emacs completions, basic completion system configuration, if you would be able to do this, but with the one that I have set up, it does work where you can kind of navigate through them using Control and Control P and see all the results. And you see everything together, like I was saying. So consult line could be useful by itself without actually having Vertico or Orderless. Well, I am using Orderless at the moment. The question would be, actually, no, I'm not using Orderless in this buffer. So, it's interesting because it is possible that the normal completion styles could work fine with consult line, depending on how you search. Gun says, is there a command that shows you the doc strings for the available completion styles aside from show variable? Probably in the customized interface would be the way to do that. And if I search for completion styles, a list. No. Completion styles, list of completion styles to use. Open it. Okay, it's not describing them. The other thing would just be using info mode, I think. You would have to find the info page for it. Probably the better way to do it. All right. Ima says the info manual is a bit sparse on completions. Yeah, it would be nice if they had it there because it's, like we've already seen, it's not quite a convenient way to read them, having to look at the variable and the string that's in the variable for that. All right. Any other thoughts, people? Like, is there anything I'm missing here? Bichal says, hey, Bichal, Embark is nice for turning a live consult grep search into a static grep mode buffer so you can keep the results around outside the mini buffer. Yeah, that is cool. However, you can kind of already do that with normal Emacs completions. This is just a normal buffer. I can go back to it. In fact, I could probably even rename the buffer and keep it around myself. So that's the thing with community packages that are trying to improve the experience of Emacs. Sometimes they reinvent the wheel in ways that seem interesting, but what you don't realize is that Emacs already had a way to do that was built in, and it's kind of part of the normal operating model of Emacs, like having buffers and whatnot, like having a completions buffer. It's a buffer. You can do things with it like a buffer. So it can kind of go either way. I mean, like, you have to learn more about how to use the tools that are available to you in Emacs and kind of learn to appreciate them and not just try to like reach for something outside of the box or outside of, you know, what's built in. Because it's very easy to just go look at like people's cool configurations and go just use whatever's in there. But I think it's worthwhile to do what I've done, which is to just strip everything out and try to use as much of the stuff that's in the box as possible. Because you will learn how Emacs was really like at its lowest level, how it's meant to be used. You'll understand the model of Emacs a lot better. It will be a little less polished and user-friendly, but it's not that bad. In fact, a lot of effort seems to be going into the base Emacs experience as time goes on. A lot of the people that are making these community packages like Minad and Vertico are like contributing to Emacs itself to improve the state of what's in Emacs. So over time, Emacs itself gets better. A lot of these things get kind of smoothed out so that really the inbox experience would be possibly just as good or better than community packages. We'll see how that kind of goes in the future, but I think it's worthwhile to try like the default completion system in Emacs to understand completion styles and not really need to rely on something like Orderless unless you have a real good reason to do it, right? Sorcerer says, book when about Emacs. I don't know. I've thought about it and tried doing it multiple times, and I don't know. I just feel like streaming and videos are better somehow. Big Edie says, if you find EWM usable, would you consider ditching Sway? Nah, the simplicity of Sway, I feel like is a benefit. Having Emacs be the thing that drives the session is nice in theory, but in practice, it is risky because if Emacs itself hangs, then your whole desktop session hangs. And if Emacs crashes for whatever reason, which isn't super often, but it is possible, especially if you are using native components that are baked in that are controlling your environment, it could crash and bring down your entire session. Sway itself is quite stable. It works really well. It's pretty easy to configure. It gives me the aesthetics that I want. It really is all I need. I don't really need to have Emacs as my window manager anymore, but it was fun to do that for a while. I really enjoyed using EXWM, but I don't think I would go back to that or that kind of experience, let's say. But I am curious to try it though to see how well it works because I figure it probably does work well. Imo says, using defaults also makes it a lot easier to use Emacs in a TTY without your config for configuring something. Yes, and that's another reason why I did it. Because I use a terminal a lot now, and I just like using Emacs in the terminal more than I use it in the graphical mode. And my configuration works in both places just the same, basically. Big Edie says, I've only taken a cursory look at it, and I was under the impression that it addressed the issue of everything crashing if Emacs crashes. Yes, well, it does that because it's probably using a separate process for managing the session, and Emacs just communicates with it through some kind of communication channel. And we've talked about that a long time ago. Like when we all talked about this in a a stream about what to do about EXWM, my theory was that instead of having Emacs natively talk to Xorg and Wayland, there should be a separate process that does the communication and the management of windows, and Emacs talks it through some kind of communication channel, so that Emacs itself is not, its lifetime is not tied to the lifetime of the window manager, you know? Notice says Emacs hangs. Nope. Control G, Control G, Control G fixed. Oh wait, yes, because Emacs will just drop to the terminal. Yes, it still happens every now and then. It's quite annoying. Okay, so am I gonna put Vertico back in my config? Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I'll tell you next week. But what about next week? I kind of want to try getting this EWM working to see how well it works. It's possible I could install it through Nix, but I don't know how well it's going to work if I install that in Nix and it needs to use like drivers from the system for graphics. So we'll see if I can do that. The ideal would be to get it to build in Geeks, which that requires, you know, building things with Rust, which is definitely possible in Geeks, but also a pain in the ass a lot of times. Luxray says, I found iSearch less handy for searching text in Japanese compared to the Vimco, but I agree with you that learning more about how to use base Emacs better would let me do the searching I need. Yeah, usually you can find a way to do things that you've been using other packages to do if you bother trying, but it requires time. You know, you have to decide how much time you want to invest in, you know, sharpening your Emacs skills. I don't think that it's a waste of time. I think it's quite useful, actually. If you can learn how to use base Emacs as much as possible without any configuration, then you can be productive with Emacs in any situation. Like if you log into a server somewhere and you need to use Emacs to edit a file, you will not feel completely lost. Now, I know you can use Tramp to edit a file on a remote server, but maybe you don't have access to that server from your machine. Maybe you have to, like, you know, go through a VPN and some other thing or whatever. It's nice to be able to know how to use base Emacs, but that's not a thing that you have to feel like you have to do. We're not elitists here. We're not saying that the only way to be a real Emacs user is to use the stuff that's in the box. I would never say that. But it can be a fun learning experience. That's the reason why I did it. It's fun to try different things. It's part of the reason why people like us use Emacs is because it gives you the ability to experiment so easily that you can try a lot of different stuff, see if you like it, and if you like it, that's great. You can keep using it. Otherwise, if you hate it, you just use something different. That's the crafter way, you know? You're just trying to figure out what works best for you and have fun using your computer at the same time, as long as computers still exist, because the hardware is no longer affordable, or we're just talking to AI agents all day long and not actually using the computer ourselves, which I suppose is possible. I don't really want it to be like that, but we'll see what happens in a year or two. Sad way to end the stream, I guess, but you can tell I'm thinking about this a lot. You forgot this is your username. Okay. Yes, all I see in my view in Livecrafter for YouTube users is the actual username, not the display name. All right, anyway, thank you all for being here today. I'm sorry that this was the first stream in 3 weeks. I will be back again next week. Well, I'm not going to make any promises because who knows what life is going to throw at me next week, but I will do my best to be back next week. We will try to see if we can look at the EWM package, which is Emacs as a Wayland compositor. Otherwise, just let me know what you would like to see, either in the comments of this video or in the irc.libra.chat, the System Crafters chat room there, or anything else. So thank all of you for being here. Really appreciate your time and attention. I hope you all have a great weekend. Until next time, happy hacking. See ya. Now I have to go find the button to click. All right. Bye-bye.